So first off, I want to thank the Drunken Peasants for showing people my Brett Keane documentary. It wasn't really so much a documentary as a mockumentary, so it wasn't impartial at all. It was very satirical, and I wasn't trying to make it serious. So if that's what you were looking for, I'm sorry, but that's not the kind of thing that I do when I make these sorts of things. It's more just about entertainment. It was a tiny bit overwhelming, so I haven't really responded to comments or anything. I will try to, so just hang on for that. It will take me a bit of a while. So in a video a while back, I was talking about my SJW class, and I was talking about how whiteness was in one of the lectures and how it was just basically this weird, crazy kind of class where you have to repeat what they say and keep your opinions as regressive left as possible, and that's how you pass. Well, my class gets even crazier now because the exams are coming up, and this exam is a very stupid exam. First off, it's labeled as an exam, but it's not even an exam in my opinion, because they just give it to us online. Because they basically have this kind of internet hub in general where you log in and then there's all of your textbook lists and then there's the assignments and everything, and then you hand in the assignments online, like you just submit it through that link, and then so all of your resources and stuff are there for what your classes are. So with the other exams, they're just proper exams where you show up and then you do the exam, you have to turn your phone off, all that sort of stuff, and then that's it. But this one, they just release questions online that you can do at home, and then you have like 2 weeks or 3 weeks to do it, and then you just submit it by the due date. That's not an exam, that's just an assessment. It seems to me like they're not even putting any effort into this class to make it a class. It's just, hey, let's talk about our opinions on the subject and then make people parrot it back to us. That's basically all it is. They're not even trying. And that's not even the worst part. Let me talk about the questions in the exam. And the resources as well. Let me pull them up on my phone. So I'm looking at all of the questions for the exams right now, and all of them we have to watch TED Talks by feminists and other people who are very left-leaning, and then basically write down and discuss their points. Now, discuss basically means talk about what they say in a very left-leaning way, and parrot what was said in the lectures and then get good marks. That's what it means. So the statement that we should discuss, this is from the textbook now. The second common element is that all feminists hold that gender relations are characterized by inequality, literally meaning rule of the father, patriarchy. And then it goes on to talk about how patriarchy is bad. And then the TED Talk that we have to watch and respond to or agree with is why women should tell the stories of humanity, basically talking about feminism and the feminist perspective. It's not history, it's her story. The second one is basically Islamophobia, the exam. It's basically just how every single Muslim is exactly the same and they're all goody-goody peaceful and there's no distinction between them, there's no individuality, and if you try to talk about what's written in the texts, you're obviously racist. We basically have to talk about Muslims and fundamentalism and all the stuff about prejudice and power and stuff like that, and the TED Talk is when people of Muslim heritage challenge fundamentalism. The next two questions, these are the last two, there's only 4 questions on the exam. They're not that bad. They're just like some sort of destruction of the environment kind of thing, and then the last one is just non-violence, just like violence and peace, and then just some general discussion about that. It's not very exciting. It's just, I don't know, it's just a question. And luckily it doesn't have anything to do with punching Nazis. Okay, so now I'm going to talk about the slides, and believe it or not, the slides are even worse than the exams. Now by slides I mean the lecture slides, and I mean the lectures in general. Now, I'm a good student, I show up to my lectures, I show up to the tutorials, I pay attention, and I generally do enjoy my classes. For all of my other classes. For this one, I don't show up that much. I can't. It drains my soul. We have these 2 people, one of them is just some other random guy who shows up every now and again. He's the guy who wrote the textbook, and he's okay. At least he's kind of lively in the lectures. The guy that we usually have is this weird old white guy who just seems to hate himself, because during the whiteness lecture he just looked like he hated being white. He looked like he hates being a man. There's just all this feminist stuff over and over again. During the lecture that we had on studying society and technology, it was just basically that cliche thing that you hear. You know, there's like an old lady and then she's talking about how society is changing, everyone's on their phones, social media, young people these days, it's not like what it used to be, that kind of thing. That's basically what that lecture was. I'm not expecting a class that just looks at society and studies society and sociology just to hand me a plate with the meaning of life on it. But I was expecting a bit more than the cliche random technology is weird kind of thing. And that's basically what it's devolved into. It's either all of that kind of cliche stuff that gives you nothing, or it's feminist stuff. Not showing up to the lectures is actually better for me because all I have to do is read the slides and I actually understand it better than listening to this crazy guy rambling on and on about stuff that doesn't really match up to reality. As I mentioned in my last video about this class, the majority of the people seem to dislike the class, and I can say that that is something that I am still confident is true because people that I've talked to do that class hate the class. I was talking to someone about this class and they went up to the very top of the row of seats in the kind of auditorium where the class is, and they were looking down at everyone so they could see everyone's screens and just see what they were doing. Now there's another class in there, and during that class everyone seemed fine. Everyone seemed to be actually paying attention and writing down notes. But during the SJW class, no one was doing that. Everyone was either on Facebook or playing some sort of game. And it just seems like the majority of people can't be fucked to actually pay attention. Neither can I, honestly. A lot of people are basically dropping out of the class, and the only reason that I'm staying in this class is because I wanted to kind of expose what was going on and show you guys this. You can thank me later. I just thought it would be really interesting to find out what the regressive kind of ideology in academia was like in a university that wasn't in the news or on the internet all the time because of protests or anything. That shit doesn't really happen because it's like a smaller kind of area or whatever, and I just wanted to kind of show what it was like there. If you look back at my older videos, I do raise a couple questions like, is university worth it? I'm scared, I don't know what to do, I don't know if I should go. I will say that it is worth it because all of my other classes are really good and I'm perfectly fine with that, so I'm happy to say that, but this class is killing me. I will read you some of the slides that I have for one of the lectures of this weird class. So this is on masculinity, femininity, and sport and religion, all in one class for some reason. Sport has a masculine history. Sports stars are exemplars of hegemonic masculinity. These sports have been interpreted as a response to feminism and increasing power of women. Throughout history, women have been discouraged and even excluded from participating in sport. The gendered nature of sport has many consequences for women. And then there's some other stuff that the lecturer rambled about. It was really weird. Let me tell you about what happened in that lecture. So he basically starts off by saying that religion and sport are basically the same thing, and then says that they're not the same thing after a while because he starts talking about feminism, and then he says something about masculinity, and somehow sport is different from religion now. I have no idea why that happened. He didn't acknowledge that it contradicted. He didn't care. The lecture that happened last week, I haven't actually read the lecture slides for them yet because it's about social movements and I don't want to look at it yet. The weird thing is, in all of my other classes, you look at what's in the lectures and then you have to actually use the stuff in the lectures which ties to the textbook, which ties to stuff in the exams. So it's all nice in a bundle. With this class, it just seems like there's random topics and they just want to get their beliefs out there and they want to cram as much of their beliefs into you as possible and like tell you as much of their beliefs as possible. It just doesn't make sense. This class is just structured terribly and no one likes it, and I don't know why it's still running besides that they have the power to do that, so they're gonna do it anyway. It's a clusterfuck. And let me talk about the textbook. Bell hooks is mentioned in the textbook as a recommended reading source. You know bell hooks? The one that Anita Sarkeesian says was her inspiration. She loves bell hooks the crazy one. She's mentioned in the textbook and you can read stuff on her. Anything that's feminist is friendly material. So far removed from reality, it's a really weird textbook to read. I don't even know if I'm gonna be staying in this class for next year. I have no idea. If it just stays the same, I might just drop it because it's giving me a headache. But if it starts to get crazier, then I might have to just suffer through it because I still want to have something to show you about this class. So we'll have to see how it goes. Now, I don't go to the University of Sydney, I go to some other one, but I've been seeing the videos about the whole protest that happened about the red pill, and I have to say, it looks really annoying, and I'm glad that I didn't really see anything like that happening in my university. I think that the whole protest was so dumb that me responding to it would just be stupid because it basically responds to itself, so I'm not gonna be playing any of the footage, but I'll basically just ramble about it now. So one of the things that I wanted to talk about was one of the people mentioned that they want victims of abuse and victims of sexual assault to have a safe space to study and safety and support. Universities generally have counseling or something like that. They generally have that kind of stuff. And you should apply for it. If you need it, apply for it. Do not expect them to read your mind and cater to your every whim. You have a responsibility to go and get stuff. Universities should not be a safe space. And as me, a survivor of one of those terrible things from when I was younger, I understand how it feels because I've been through it, but I also understand that the only way for me to live my life now is to get over it and keep going. So I don't actually need the counseling services in university. I don't need any of that because I found my own pace and I can just get over it and keep going. It takes a while to do that. It's not easy, but you have to do it at the end of the day. You can't let it control you. And I just think that this is interesting because she keeps going on and on about the victims. The protester keeps going on about the victims, and if she was confronted with me and how I handle my victimhood, would she actually just ignore me or would she argue with me? Because I am not what she thinks as victim. I'm not the ideal. Just like how feminists ignore women who are not feminists. Would she ignore me because I'm not the right kind of victim? I'm not acting the way that she wants? It just shows how this is so detached now. They only care about people who believe what they believe and they don't care about anything else. So that's enough of that for now. I'll try to make something every couple of months to tell you about this class, and maybe when something really crazy happens. For now, I'm just gonna try and get through it anyway. I've managed to pass the class with good marks doing minimal effort, and I plan to keep it that way because the least amount of time I spend on this class, the better. So to keep things ending on a happy note, I'm just gonna talk about something that I mentioned for one of my last videos. People were talking about how I used the Bully soundtrack from the game Bully, and they were wondering if I liked it or if I just like the soundtrack and haven't played the game. I really do like the game. It's one of my favorites. Conker's Bad Fur Day is another one that I use. It's one of my favorites as well. My all-time favorite game is Monkey Island 3, Curse of Monkey Island. I've played that game all of my life. I basically played that game since I was about like 7 years old. I've played it so many times it's probably not healthy. One of the things that I also love pretty much equally is the really old Harry Potter games, but for the PlayStation 2, that's the one I played, not GameCube. I love all of them and I've been playing them since I was really little as well. Harry Potter is one of my biggest fandom things. Rick and Morty is also, I'd say Harry Potter and Rick and Morty are pretty far up there on the things that I love. So that's probably where the music and the references are gonna come from on this channel if you didn't know. Another thing that I really love that I haven't really mentioned is Nightmare Before Christmas. I really love that one. That's one of my favorite movies of all time. I love the soundtrack, I love the themes, I love just everything. I love the design. I have a little pop vinyl Sally figure that sits on my little desk thing next to my bed. So if you wanted to know stuff about that, then I hope that that was interesting, and I hope it was silly enough to distract you from the horrible shit that I was just talking about before. And I have my piano lessons today, so I'm gonna go now, but I hope that you liked this little update.